Welcome into our lives.
And welcome to the Expanders Club podcast.
We're so happy to have you.
Join us as we embark on a journey of deep exploration, soul searching, and asking the hard questions.
With the goal of truly understanding the most aligned, empowered, and purposeful versions of ourselves.
We want to live an extraordinary life, and we're willing to dig deep to find out what it takes.
Buckle up. You're about to meet a new version of yourself, an extraordinary one.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Expanders Club podcast. Excited to be here today. Madeline Lucy on the mic.
Madeline Lucy with the rebrand. I love it. So good. Brooke Harris. No rebrand yet, but maybe.
Watch this space.
Exactly. We are here to chat all things expansion, evolution, spirituality, wellness, mindset, all the things to just help you and us on your journey to growth and, getting through this life in the most expansive way possible.
I mean, this has been a journey. And Brooke, for you and I, if we reflect on how far we've come in this, maybe selfishly, this was just for us and our growth.
I mean, for sure. Actually, I have to tell you about a really perfect moment for me, kind of selfish, but I know that you and the audience will be able to relate to this. I had a call with my little brother the other day who, we talk on the phone twice a year. I mean, we're close and I love him to death, but, he's in New York, I'm in LA, very different time zones. He's a dude, so not always super chatty. But had a call with him the other day. He had some big news to share and we're just talking through stuff. And he said to me on the call, "What do you think my human design is?"
Oh.
And I said, okay, you guys, my brother, he's a guy's guy. He's like a hunter. He works with his hands. His job is he's an engineer for the and does maintenance for the windmills, the giant windmills. So he's climbing and working on windmills all day. He's a dude. He listens to Joe Rogan. That's probably his number one podcast. Okay.
Says it all.
He said, "What do you think my human design is?" I said, "What?" I said, "How do you know about human design?" Lit up. And he goes, "I've been listening to the podcast."
Oh,
and it was just
so sweet.
I was like, I made it.
Your brother is listening to the podcast.
This is all I could have ever wanted from this is for my siblings. My sister's already listening. She's, she and I are on the same page with a lot of this stuff, but for that recognition from my siblings and especially my brother and to introduce him. And then I went and looked up his human design and his partner. I sent her hers. And so it was a really fun moment for me. And I was like, this is all I needed out of this.
That's so beautiful. Oh my God. I told you the time that my little brother Clancy had said, I was literally getting on the plane to leave Australia and I was coming back to LA. I just had a trip. We'd spent a beautiful couple of weeks together and so we were closer than ever. And he's like, "Oh, Mads, I just want to say, I'm really inspired by your podcast and I was loving what you were saying about not drinking alcohol anymore. And it's, it's really inspiring me. I love that you look after your health so much. And I think I want to do that." And I just lost it, tears, pure, oh my God. He literally was like, "Thank you for being such a great influence." And I was like, I'm done. That's beautiful.
That's a big sis moment. We're both oldest sisters.
Yeah.
It's there's a bit of mothering, I think, that comes along with that. And you have a different relationship to them than they do to you.
Yeah. But it's funny though. There's this motherly nature for sure, so wanting to look after them. And also they've got their shit together more than I do. I'm figuring it out day by day. I've had many life pivots and they're just they're settled. They're chilling. Had lifelong, 10-year partnerships, settled in their career. They've been in their whole life. And I'm like, wow, good on you guys.
Yeah. Well, that's okay too. You're inspiring them in different ways,
That's it.
It's a different version of having your shit together.
I think so. It's all in the personal growth, the journey. It's all what's happening on the inside, because you can look like you've got your shit together on the outside, but maybe not. You just don't know. And hopefully I'm laying the foundation.
Yeah. I mean, we see that all the time, right? We've both experienced that. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's almost harder is when you have this outer image of people thinking you have your shit together, you have things figured out, you have these titles, whatever it is. And then internally you're like freaking out because you're like, fuck, I don't want to be this. I don't know how to be anything different. Who am I? What do I want out of life? Like, that's almost harder than just like being out there and being like, cool, I'm just figuring it out as I go.
Truly. Yeah, we've talked about this, and I've had this conversation with multiple people lately. It feels like so many people's worlds of what they thought are breaking down, and they're having this moment of everything that I thought was my purpose, everything that I thought I was meant to do doesn't seem real anymore, doesn't seem right anymore. And they're going through this full, we've said it, rebirth.
Yeah. Yeah.
As you and I are.
Yes. So anyone out there who relates to that feeling like they're different than they ever were, like you're right on track as far as we're concerned. So
how does this meet up with the astrological time right now?
Oh my God. Okay. Perfectly. Actually, thank you for asking, Madeline. Yes. Lucy. Perfectly. So, I mean, everyone knows we're in Virgo season right now. Virgo season is time to kind of, for me, it feels like this Virgo season is more activated than ever as far as like going out there and doing it. Like we're at the start, you're kind of planting your seeds, like getting organized this next week or so. And then it's like go time. Like use this next week to think about what has stopped you, what has gotten in your way from like really doing what your heart and soul truly desire, and be ready to be done with that and just go for it. And everyone heard at the beginning of the year, we even had Eric on, I think episode 3, if you want to go back and listen, talking about this big shift where Pluto is shifting into Aquarius for the first time shifting out of Capricorn, which has been in since 2008, which was, the economic crisis, a bunch of like big things politically happening, kind of chaos in the world. And it had been in Capricorn since then until the beginning of the year, until like February of this year. And it was a really hard time for a lot of people, like a lot of shit, especially if you were a water sign and a few others. And so we've had this kind of, it shifted into Aquarius. We've had this kind of lifting, and you've seen everyone starting to look around and be like, who am I? What do I want out of life? What do I actually want to pursue? What's my real identity? Like starting to ask really big and profound questions. Well, it's going back into Capricorn for a very short time. So starting Sunday, September 1st through November 19th, Pluto's going to shift back into Capricorn, which like, don't be triggered. It is a little concerning. It does feel a little concerning, but it's an opportunity to really look at really just like make sure you've done the work, right? We've spent the past 7-8 months, whatever it's been, doing some work. Now let's really take a minute and examine it. And have you really faced down and let go of those things that were holding you back? And if there's any little strings of that holding on, fucking slice them down and be done by November 19th. Be done with all your shit. Pluto's going into Aquarius for a long ass time. I don't know how long. I think it's like 18 or 20 years. Don't quote me on that. Pluto's going into Aquarius, and that it's all about freedom, like being your true biggest self, like as Eric has said, like letting your freak flag fly and just really like being true to yourself, your soul, your soul's mission. So by November 19th, cut the shit, get it, be done with it all, be done with the stories, be done with the fear, be done with anything that's held you back, anything that feels like an old version of you that no longer resonates. You've got a month, 2 months, 2.5 months to work through it and be done.
Wow. This feels actually so good.
It's very exciting. And I think people are feeling, without me even telling them or knowing anything about astrology, you're kind of feeling that. You're like, okay, there's a final push. And on the other side is like, feels like true freedom and clarity and like a new and different way of being. Is like, we're on the cusp of it.
This is hopeful. This is so hopeful. Do you see this resonating in a way of your life?
Oh my God. Yes. So much. So much. I mean, I think we've all done a lot of work the past 7-8 months since the start of this year. And we've started to shift our perspectives. We've started to cut ties with those old stories, the old ways of being. And I feel like there's just still a little stickiness on me, you know, like I feel a little sticky still. Like I like, it's like one last push to really look at and be clear on like, are you going to be fearless or are you going to stay back in this old way of being? And like, I know my answer, and now it's just using my energy to push through.
Yeah. Yeah. Keeping in that momentum. Oof. I love this. I'm feeling this more than ever. I'm feeling in such a ready stage to just face fears and like get things out of the way. And the only thing in the way was myself. And and it's, oh my God, the feeling when you achieve something that you've been wanting to achieve and you're like, oh, I got this. And that you just keep working on that momentum. You just have to take action. And then there's so much I think the biggest thing is like where you are right now might seem so frustrating and you're like, I'm so close. You just don't know what it could look like in 2 months. Like your life could look so different. And it's just like, keep freaking going. And then in 2 months, you'll look back and be like, oh my gosh, how much further can I go?
I think if nothing else, hopefully we've inspired that, because we have changed so much every month. Almost every time we get on the mic, we've changed and shifted. Like, so I think that if nothing else, if we can inspire and be proof of that, and that, you know, what you said is so freaking true every time. Like the only thing actually in your way is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And like that in a really empowering way. That should be empowering. And so it's like, cool. All you have to do is silence that voice in your head for 1 second so that you can then go do it. And then you're on the other side and you're like, oh shit, I did it. Great.
What else can I achieve? It's freaking juicy. What an opportunity. That's it. Let this be motivation. Thank you for the astrology reading.
Thanks for asking.
Well, okay, guys, speaking of feeling empowered and inspired, I think this episode is going to make you feel powerful for sure. Meredith Baker, a great friend of mine, is a leadership coach. She is a community builder. She has a podcast, Powerful Stuff. She is a stand-up comedian. She ran 25 marathons. She's done Ironman.
Wild.
She's like, this woman just goes hard. Like, speak of someone who just like gets out of her way and just does it and proves time and time again that she can. She just gives things a go. And I think that she's someone that's been very inspiring for me along the way. And she was my coach for a while there, and now just like a very good friend, and so grateful to have her in my life. And I think you guys are going to love this episode.
Yeah, it's like every other sentence is like motivational, inspiring, like makes you think about something. It's a really fun one to listen to. Meredith is, I don't think she and I have ever met in person.
Oh yeah.
But I enjoy her quirkiness. Like she's very quirky in a really charming way that like almost like she says these like big profound things, but with the quirky way she says them, it like makes them hit differently, because you're like, oh yeah, she says them like so nonchalantly that you're like, yeah, cool, that is right and true and easy, and yes, like
yeah, it's like no bullshit. It's like she says the most profound yet like, you know, Venice spiritual talk that you could talk in the funniest way. She just delivers it like brilliant dry humor.
Yes. Yeah. So
we kind of take the piss.
Yeah. It makes it really fun because it's not this like, it is inspiring and it is emotional and it is motivational, but it's like, it's peppy. There's a beat to it that like keeps you engaged and interested.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I had a lot of fun chatting with her, and that's like generally the way our conversations go all the time. And so it was too easy.
I love that. Well, thanks, Meredith, for coming on. Mads, where can the people find and connect with her?
Oh yeah, so on her Instagram is the Meredith Baker, and then her, I think it's Powerful Stuff is her Instagram handle as well for her business. and she throws events. She does like a Monday morning, she does best morning ever down at Venice Beach, and it's like a yoga, breath work, journal writing connection moment, and that's a really great way to start the week. And yeah, her podcast on Spotify and on iTunes, powerful stuff. You guys will love it. So listen in. I'll add all of that in the show notes. Enjoy this one, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Meredith, and thank you all for hanging with us.
Hello, Meredith Baker. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Maddie, Ireland. Happy to be here. You know what they say, second time's a charm.
Second time is a charm. Just letting our audience know, we have in fact recorded this podcast before. We did have some technical difficulties with the sound, so Meredith has kindly agreed to do this again.
Any opportunity to chat with Maddie, Ireland, check. Gonna take it. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're too good to me. Actually, while we're here, this is probably good for us to have this chat. I'm actually doing a personal rebrand.
Let's hear it.
I've got to get used to it. I've got to start introducing myself as Madeline Lucy.
Madeline Lucy.
How does it feel?
I'm like, I received that and I acknowledge it and I see you as Madeline Lucy.
I don't think
Lucy.
It doesn't come so much as a surprise because my Instagram handle has always been Madeline Lucy. But I think that moving forward, I'm going to call myself that.
How much do you feel connected to your middle name? I'm just curious because like we all have one, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like what does your middle name invoke for you?
Okay, can I just say this? I like Lucy. I like it a lot. I
love Lucy.
I think it's very easy. Everyone knows how to spell Lucy. That makes it easy, right?
Right.
But as someone with a double barrel last name, Ireland Larratt, my whole life, and like bless my mother and father for such, giving me that gift. It is a mouthful. And so moving forward professionally as Ireland Larratt is quite a lot. And I feel bad to my dad to drop Larratt. And I feel that's what I've been doing. But I just think I'm moving forward with Lucy.
Yeah, I love Lucy.
Thanks, Mare.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Such a happy name.
Support.
And there was a show, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a show called I Love Lucy.
That's right.
And I just want you to know that it's true, and I do.
I feel so seen and so
Madeline
loved.
Lucy. Where does it come from? Is it like a relative's name, or were your parents just like, we like Lucy?
Yeah, of no significance, like no relevance to the family whatsoever. It's just like they liked the name.
It's a great way to put that name in there. If like, okay, we didn't, it didn't get that first draft, but then it still got in there for the second draft, which is the middle.
Yeah.
Name.
The middle name's that kind of second. Yeah, you're right.
But then it's also the complete draft because then it's like without Lucy, it's not Madeline Lucy.
That's exactly right.
It's like the first and second need each other. Yeah, it's partnership.
What is your middle name?
Wow. My middle name is Claire, Meredith Claire,
way.
Also known as Mare Claire, named after my maternal grandmother.
Wow. Do you resonate?
I really resonate because Claire, my grandma, was my business advisor, one of my best friends. She got me my first guitar and then my second guitar. I wear, her necklace, which my mom made my grandma this shuttle necklace when my mom went up in the space shuttle, and then gave it to me when my grandma passed. And then this is my grandma's wedding ring, which was my great grandma's wedding ring, which is 150-year-old Ukrainian gold.
Stop it. Wow.
Anyway, so all that's to say is I resonate with Claire.
Thank you for that story.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty beautiful. Can you just elaborate on, and I know that and we're here to talk about Mare because we love Mare, but Just elaborate on your mom going up in a spaceship.
Wow. So Ellen, my mom, went up in 89, 92, and 96. She was initially a general practitioner doctor before she was an astronaut. And then she was actually a doctor for the astronauts and then applied to be an astronaut and then became an astronaut when my sister was 1 year old and I was an unfertilized egg, if you will. She went up in 89. So I like to say in Two Truths and a Lie, half of me has been to space. And because it's true. And then, yeah, she launched Galileo, the satellite, and then now she's back in global health. So she's, done her work in the sky and on the ground.
Wow, what a true saint and a hero.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she's always taught me, reach for the stars, but at the same time, help me stay grounded. Like she helps me stay grounded, Sometimes I'm the space cadet.
Oh, I love that. I got told that the other day by someone I care about. They said that I definitely have my head in the clouds and I like to dream. But like with these like long legs, my head can reach the clouds, but I still keep my feet grounded, firm on the ground.
Right. Root to rise, as they say.
Root to rise. So it's like you can have both.
You can have yes and,
Never
both can be true at the same time.
So do you think that you were more encouraged in your life to just go for it and do the things that you were so like passionate about from your mother's influence? Great
question. Yeah, I mean, I come from a lineage of strong women, also, strong men. Like I joke that my dad is the strongest of all to put up with in a household with 3 strong women, strong opinionated women. But yeah, definitely seeing my grandma who was like an immigrant or not, sorry, she was not an immigrant, but was her grandparents were immigrants. I know, I'm like, I am lying. No, her grandparents were immigrants. She was raised by a single mom, put herself through nursing school, raised her siblings, then had my mom and my uncle and an adopted son from Vietnam. And then when they left, when she was, in her 40s, 50s, worked her way up through PTA in Queens and then worked her way up through city government and became borough president of Queens, New York, which is like mayor of Queens from like the 80s until like the late 90s, early 2000s, and brought like the US Open to Queens, renovated areas of Queens, renovated hospitals, libraries, brought the movie industry back to Queens, like Astoria and Silver Cup Studios. Anyways, my grandma reminds me that, we think in our like 20s or 30s, oh, I have to achieve this by a certain time, or I need to do this by 30. My grandma was like in her 50s when her like biggest professional legacy started. It was like after my mom and uncle had like left, the house and had their own careers. And my grandpa was close to retiring, and that's when her whole career picked up and like she created this lasting legacy. So that's what my grandma really reminded me of. And she's always been like such a present grandma too, for us, and like, so supportive. And then my mom as well, for sure, being an astronaut and seeing her go into space and just kind of taking things, like never believing like, oh, I can't do this because I'm a woman. Like, I feel like that was never in my, it's just gratefully, not something I thought about with like the strong, like self-made women in my family. And, yeah, I mean, I was also very different. Like my mom also brought like lots of acceptance to me, like, cause I did a lot of things that she didn't necessarily do growing up. Like she's very much a tomboy, and I like and am that stuff to a certain extent, but I wanted to cheerlead in high school. I wanted to do the Miss Texas Teen Beauty pageant. I wanted to be a teen reporter. And she would like drive me in high school to downtown Houston every day. So I could work with the Houston CBS and like be a teen reporter for them. She cheered me on at the Houston or at the Miss Texas Teen pageant. So she did things that were also very out of her own comfort zone. That maybe if she had it her way, would probably have preferred that I didn't do, but still showed me like support in, exploring these things that were very different than like what she was used to.
Oh my gosh. What a supportive mother. That's
I
beautiful.
know. Mom, if you're listening, I love you.
Oh.
Thanks for visiting LA and letting me pull your tarot cards.
Did you?
Yeah. She got the wolf when I pulled her animal spirit card, which is about like kind of protecting the pack, but then also like being okay if like people in the pack don't do exactly what you say. And then she was just like, I didn't need an animal spirit deck to tell me that I'm a wolf.
Oh, yes. She knows. She knows herself.
She knows. Yeah.
I love that you were able to have that upbringing and that view of women. Like there was no barriers, no boundaries, no other way than just like you, as a woman, you can achieve whatever you want. Was there ever a point in your life outside of your family that you were conditioned to believe otherwise?
Gosh. Well, yeah. I mean, I think like you run into things. It's so funny because things feel normal sometimes at the time, and you don't think about it till after. Like I was a cheerleader for 1 year in high school, and like the cheerleaders like on the game days had to cook the football players cookies, and it's like
What?
at the time it feels like normal, but now you're like, why? Like, we're just as much an athlete as they are, and we're like cheering them on, but we also, I don't know. So I like look back at stuff like that. And I'm like, that's interesting. And then, in college, I think that, we had an unbalanced gender dynamic, in our social scene. And I think there was a lot of like women waiting outside of the doors of mansions controlled by boys at our college, hoping to get on the list when there were also girls from like 8 other colleges who were like going to that party. And so sometimes it was like, oh, I really want to go to this party because like that's where everyone's going this weekend. But it felt like you had to wait outside and then hope this guy let you in. And like, so like little like moments like that where it like felt unbalanced, but like at the time you did it. And then I like look back and I was like, ooh, that was like me giving my power away, or that like doesn't feel like that would fly in this day and age. Yeah. So I would say like moments like that I look back on, but I will say that I am very grateful that I have grown up in a family and, have been fortunate enough to like not feel it as sharply as so many women around the world do. And and of course I have like other like little like instances of that, or instances of like, I feel like there could be more education around for men around like what women go through and consent and like, what we go through every month, like hormonally. But, I won't go down the rabbit hole right now, but all I'll say is I'm grateful for the family and the upbringing I've had to overall give me that drive of like knowing anything is possible. And my deepest wish is for like other women around the world to know that for themselves as well, and for every woman to wake up to her power.
Yes. I remember feeling that way as well. I mean, I was just going with what I thought was normal. But growing up, we would always go to like the boys' football games was such a big event. And it was like you would go, I forgot what they were called, but like all of us girls would sit on the sidelines of these big football games at the schools as if like they were the big events. And I always remember being like, why are we sitting on the sidelines like drinking champagne, watching the boys play footy? Like this just doesn't feel right. And it was always they would never come and make a big event of our sporting games. it was just this tradition locked into these like boys' schools and then like these clubs afterwards, after school. And my whole life I've always said like, well, I don't want to sit on the sidelines. You know, it's like this idea of like when the boys would all go surfing, I'd be like, but I want to go surfing. And then it's like, was just a matter of being like, oh, I just have to do it. And now
just do it.
Just do it. And like I was giving away my power, and now it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to go surfing. And now I surf with the boys. I'm like, here we go. This is
surf and you swim with the boys.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I've been lucky enough to have friends, like guy friends, that were like, come on, just come surfing with us, come swimming with us, like get involved, rather than like leaving me out. And I think that was this moment of like, oh, I can do all of these things. I just need to do it.
Right.
And as soon as you step into that, you're like, oh, I've got this power. I can choose to do what I want to do.
Right. And it's like just removing that belief barrier, which just, yeah, like you said, it's as simple as us just like stepping into it and doing the thing. It's like the belief can be this like invisible wall that it's actually quite, you know, empowering to climb over when we just are like, you know what, I'm going to do it anyways.
Exactly. I mean, it's crazy that women were not recognized in sports for so long. In fact, they weren't even allowed to play sports. Like, I don't even know what the year was that they like started getting involved in sports, but maybe back in the 50s, 60s. But now it feels like these Olympics, the women just stepped up.
I know. They really had their time to shine. And yeah, I mean, women, not only are incredible athletes, but also, again, like navigating like hormonal changes every month, giving birth, like all the things that, you know, come with being a woman. Yeah, make it more complicated and to still show up and give 110%. Yeah.
It's never held girl power. I mean, what a great segue to Meredith stepping into her power. As an athlete, I would love you to share all the things that you've achieved. How many marathons have you run? Iron women. What?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've done 25 marathons and I've done a full Ironman. Yeah. And I started doing marathons in high school because, I've always loved running, and my mom's friend, who I call my Aunt Karen, because she's like basically my aunt, would run marathons for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's team in training. And, you know, you would pick a marathon to run in your chapter with. You would all train. Every Saturday would be your long runs, and people would bring like pretzels and oranges, and then you would have an honored patient going through chemo that you would run for, and you'd raise like 45 or 100 or 5,000 for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And so I always said, as soon as I turn 16, I'm going to start running for team in training. And so as soon as I turned 16, I ran my first marathon, the San Francisco Nike Women's Marathon, for team in training, and then recruited a friend to do that one with me, recruited like 8 friends to do Alaska with me, recruited a friend to do San Diego with me. All in all, I think I've recruited over like 20 friends to do marathons with me, and collectively we've raised like $50,000. And marathons were really my first testament of like community building, because before high school, I was kind of like, you know, a little bit awkward trying to like find my way, like which social scene I fit in with. And I really realized giving people a shared goal where we're all pushing each other, pushing our limits, and like doing good, like it was like an easy way to bond, to create a novel experience together. And like I've since done marathons with friends all around the world, like London, Dublin, Loch Ness, Banff, Big Sur. So that was also my first foray into community building, was the marathons. And it was actually my college admission essay as well.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you say?
Well, I was like, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And it was about how, like, Confucius, but it was about how marathons are, you know, inherently this individual personal goal, but, you know, we all cross the same finish line. And when we treat it as a shared experience, we can actually like run farther together, and it's more meaningful, right? Like when you cross the finish line of a marathon, you're so proud of yourself, but you think of the people who high-fived you, who kept you going, who you kept going along the way. And it's like, I mean, that's why I love marathons. That's why I love doing marathons, is for the camaraderie.
Oh, the camaraderie.
We should
is
do a
next
marathon
level.
together.
We should. You said it here. My really good friend Carly ran the New York Marathon, and I went and cheered her on. This is years ago now, and I was screaming on the sidelines, cheering, go Carly, you've got this. And she was just crying in so much pain. She was near the finish line, and she just like, I could see the look in her face when she saw me, like so much relief. And she said later, she's like, your cheering got me over that line. Like I was about to give up. I was in so much pain. And it was so beautiful. Like I was crying back at her, just like so proud of her. But it is the camaraderie, the energy that you get from other people. It is the energetic push to like get you over the line that you might not have been able to do otherwise.
1,000%. Yeah. And that's what's crazy about it and why I love it. And up until like 2 years ago, I would do like a marathon or two a year. So I'm like due for another one. Who knows? Maybe we do one across the pond together.
Oh, you've never done a marathon in Australia?
No. Yeah. I've never been to Australia. So maybe that's two birds, one scone.
The people don't know this new saying.
Yeah. Instead of two birds, one stone. Actually, one of Maddie's other guests, who Maddie basically introduced me to, Dursu, it was like the first time I met him. We were talking about how some expressions are so violent, like two birds, one stone. It's like, why would you want to kill two birds? You know, what did they do to you? And he says, I like to say two birds, one scone. And I'm like, I love that. I hope that scone fills those birds up with nourishment. I hope it's gluten-free vegan. Anyways.
That feels so much more peaceful and aligned for us.
I know. Like there's many ways to skin a cat. Like how about there's many ways to pet a cat?
Skin, that is fucked up.
I know. It's
Like,
feral.
It's feral.
And not in a good way.
We have some sayings that maybe need a little bit of a refresh. Just like I think we need to rename an Iron Man.
Wow. Yeah, Iron Woman. That's right.
Iron Human.
Iron Human. Iron Human. You know that song, I Am Woman?
Yeah. I knew you were going to go there.
Iron. But yeah. Yeah, and that Iron Man was fun because I had done a bunch of marathons and I was like, you know what? Let's just see if I can do an Iron Man. So I actually trained for it for just a month because I already had the distance swimming and running on lock, but I had never had my bike, like I had never ridden on a road bike with like clip-ons up until I borrowed a friend's bike for a month and I trained bicycling from Venice to Redondo. And then I did the Whistler Ironman, which is like the hilliest Ironman in the world, or one of the top 3. And I put my bike on the highest gear going up the hill because I thought like at Soul Cycle and Flywheel, when they're like, it's time for a hill, turn up your resistance. So I thought that that's what you were supposed to do, but I didn't realize in stationary biking, it's like to simulate the hill. Anyways.
Oh my God. That is still one of my favorite stories that you tell.
Thank you. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, some guy told me at mile 90 and there's 112 miles on the bike. So an Ironman is 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile biking, and then 26.2 mile run. And he told me at mile 90 of the bike and everyone was passing me on the bike. And I was wondering why. And then he told me, and then I finally made it to the end of the biking. Like they do have cutoff times. Like if you don't make it by a certain time after each portion, you could be disqualified. I like ended the bike portion with like under an hour of being, I made it, but I was like an hour shy of being disqualified. But I started crying tears of joy, like putting on my tennis shoes. But yeah, all of that's to say
No
too,
doubt.
it was pretty crazy. So how I met my husband is we bonded on Hinge because we had both done Ironmans in Canada. And it turns out that when I was in Whistler for the 2019 Ironman, he was there with his family. We met in 2021, but he was there with his family cheering on the Ironman triathletes.
No way. He was cheering you on.
Yeah, and it was invisible string theory, which is so funny because during the Ironman, I had like the best self-talk of my life. Like I was just like, I'm going to finish this thing. That's why I love endurance races too, because it's like this goal, this finish line, and you know you're going to get to it no matter what. Where sometimes with entrepreneurship and other things, it can feel like these undefined journeys. So it is kind of fun to set a goal and be like, this is the finish line. And of course to enjoy the journey, etc. But anyway, so he was like, so my self-talk was so good. Whenever I saw hills, which was like all the time during the biking, I would be like, good thing I like hills. Good thing I like hills. I was like making up like weird chants. And then I'm like, one day my husband and like daughters are going to be cheering me on. Like, cause that time I did the Ironman, my dad came to Whistler to cheer me on, but I was like super single. So grateful for my dad. Dad, if you're listening, thank you so much. But,
Bless.
Ken.
We love Ken.
But yeah. Anyway, so it was just funny because I was like, one day I'm going to have a husband and he's going to cheer me on.
Meanwhile, he was there cheering you on and you didn't even know it. What
Right.
a reminder.
What a reminder.
Could be there in the crowd.
Your husband could be there in the crowd. You know, you never know.
Don't ever doubt.
Invisible string theory. If you're putting in the work, you're showing up for yourself, those people are going to find you.
What a testament. A beautiful story, Mare. The one
Thank
I
you,
hadn't
Maddie.
heard that.
Oh, really? I was like, I feel like Maddie.
In the crowd.
Oh, yeah. He was in the crowd. Never forget, you know?
You will never forget.
I'll never forget. And I'm sure he won't either.
Okay, so what would you say, how are your tools to working through the voice in your head? Like that's no joke. Like a whole Ironman, 25 marathons, like you must be a pro at working through the negative voice in your head. What would you say that this looks like for you, your tools to get through this?
Oh my gosh, I love a good tool. So what I would say is that for myself personally, and then I can say what I tell my coaching clients, but like, I mean, it's basically one and the same, but it's kind of just to acknowledge that voice. Like, I think the old way of doing things, people would be like, shut up that voice in your head, like beat that voice down, or like counter it with positive affirmations. And it's kind of like that voice in our head is part of us. Usually it's like our unacknowledged or scared inner child. So like shaming it or being a helicopter parent or like beating it down isn't helpful either. So I like to acknowledge it just like you would acknowledge a child who's like having a temper tantrum or crying, like, okay, what are you telling me? Maybe in writing down what it's telling me. Like the voice in my head is telling me this, right? It's not who I am. It's just a story, but like, let's hear it out. And then I might ask myself, like, why are you scared? And then I might take it to rock bottom. And then what? And then what happens? And then what? And then I would maybe present like a loving counter argument to that voice. Okay, well, it's okay that you're scared and we're going to do it anyway. It's okay that you're scared and remember like those times we did those marathons and we didn't think we could finish. It's okay that you're scared and like I'm going to be here no matter what. And as long as you put the inputs in and you try the hardest, even if you know you don't make it across like the literal finish line, I'm still going to be proud of you, right? I like to acknowledge that voice. I like to get curious about where it's coming from and why it's showing up. And then I like to lovingly remind it that I've got me and I'm not going anywhere. Like giving little Meredith a hug and being like, it's going to be okay. And that's what I tell my clients too with like self-talk. It's like, let that negative voice speak. It doesn't mean that it's going to make it more true, but you just let it speak from a place of curiosity, just like you're sitting your little inner child down on your lap and you're letting them have a little cry. And then you can start from that place of acceptance and allowance. You can then start to release it with like loving energy. And the other thing I'll say about that is like those voices never go away per se. Like they might become quieter or further and fewer between. And it's like going to the dentist, right? Like if we don't brush our teeth in between visits, we're going to get plaque. So like, or if we don't brush our teeth consistently. So it's like, if that voice comes up again after 2 years of not hearing it. It's not to be like, oh no, I thought I solved this in coaching or in that last plant medicine journey, but it's to be like, okay, it's coming up again. So that version of me needs a little more TLC, or maybe there's a little bit more to heal, or there's a little bit more to look at. And so I heard someone describe it once as like moving the fear from, or the negative self-talk from the driver's seat to the passenger seat. So being like, it's okay that you're here, but we're going to have the possibilities drive the driver's seat. You can still come in the passenger seat, but I'm not going to let you steer the car.
You're not steering the car because you might take us down that left road, and we are sticking on the right road.
We're sitting on the right road. And for everyone listening, Maddie's using some Hoffman speak.
Just slipping in
Left
Hoffman
road, right
rash.
road. Yeah. Not a cult, just a self-development retreat with its own terminology.
From the outside, it would sound cult-like because once you're in it, if you know, you know. I see you and I love you.
I see you and I love you. But yeah, as you know from Hoffman, lots of reminding our inner child that they are enough. And I think like when our self-sabotage voice comes in, when negative self-talk comes in, it's just our inner child just needing to be reminded that they're enough, that they're okay, like that we're not going anywhere. But yeah,
I think
Hoffman,
that's a really good, that's a good reminder though that it's never going to go away. Like if people expect for it to go away and they're like, oh, I've done so much work, like why is it still here? And coming back off the back of Hoffman, which I did 2 weeks ago, which
I'm so proud of.
Shout out to Meredith for being my big motivator for choosing to do Hoffman. Because you did it how many years ago?
I did it in 2021. Whoa. Yeah, 3.5 years ago.
Before you met your husband.
6 months before I met my husband. Coincidence?
I
think not.
So.
Or who knows? Yeah.
Powerful stuff happens post Hoffman.
What would you say your biggest Hoffman takeaway is, Maddie? Oh, and maybe we should explain to everyone. Hoffman is like, a week-long retreat where you reparent yourself from looking at your current and past patterns. A week without your phone. You're not allowed to talk about what you do for work, just who you are. And then you come out the other side feeling empowered.
Feeling so empowered. Oh, I would say, being off my phone for that long was the best thing I have done in so long. 7 days
So nice.
away from my phone. I then, you receive your phone back after the 7 days, and I didn't look at it. I just put it away and didn't check my messages. I just had to use maps because I was, in Big Sur camping. But I then, for the next 4 days, spent it in nature, connecting. And I have not felt that level of presence in, I don't know if ever. It was a childlike presence, I guess. And I think what it was this reminder of we can always come back to ourselves. We can always come back to this level of presence, of connection. And it literally vibrated throughout my body. I stepped my bare feet on the earth and I felt it vibrate through my body. Wow. And it felt just pure joy, pure bliss, pure gratitude and love. And I was walking on a cloud of joy. Presence. A gift.
Presence. I love that. Yeah, I completely agree. I feel completely resetting our dopamine. Even if you go to the retreat, things resonate, things don't. But hopefully a lot of things do. Just the phone in itself is just a reset, letting all of the dust settle. That's constantly being stirred in the glass water of our mind. And it just kind of lets all of that dust settle.
Yeah, I think, and what it did was take away this expectation of always being connected, of always being online, always being contactable. And I realized so much that I think before I was in a dependent place on it, and I was feeling pretty anxious and in a dark place. And so putting my phone down brought so much more lightness to life and joy to life. And I was like, oh, there's nothing else really wrong in my life. It's just me. It's just this addiction to my phone or this connection to my phone that I feel, expectation. And so experiencing that joy again was oh, it's there. I have the power to find it. I just have to make decisions for myself and like clear boundaries. Right. And I formed so much more love and compassion for myself through that whole process. Like really, really walked away being like, oh, I'm really proud of who I am. Like I really, really love who I am.
What a gift to give yourself and to give future generations, you know?
That's exactly right.
Carving out that time for yourself. And yeah, I think it's like the tools, they're amazing. And even just like having that reminder of not being like on a yo-yo with like the information we're constantly bombarded with on our phones or internet, and just like giving ourselves, I know I should do like a digital detox like every quarter, even just for a weekend. And I know some people who really do try to keep the technology Sabbath from like Friday to Sunday. I would love to get to there as well. I mean, at the very least, I sleep with my phone outside of my room. And I know you do as well, and have the alarm clock. But yeah, I think just continuing to create that space where, because then when we are online, it's that much more potent because we have like even more clarity around the creativity that we want to post and whatever.
Exactly.
And we're coming on with a full battery versus like when we're constantly online, even if we're on vacation, then our battery is like never fully 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like actually noticing, having that awareness, the impact it's having on your life, like just being addicted to scrolling or just like always being on your phone. And, you know, with people around you. A client of mine recently was just in a really dark place. Like she just felt like everything was compounding, and she's like, I can't, like I'm not happy. And I just suggested that maybe she delete social media for a week, for 7 days. And the next week she came back on our call and it was night and day in her demeanor. Oh. I could not even believe it. She's like, I am so much more present in my life. I'm present with my child, with my husband. I just feel so much happier. I'm waking up early. I'm going to the gym. I'm actually like sleeping better. She's like, everything's changed. And it was incredible to see that shift in someone that she just needed. She knew she needed to do it. She's like, I'm addicted to my phone.
She just needed to unplug.
That's it. And she's needed that accountability. So it's like if you've got someone in your life that maybe, and not to tell people what to do, but like if you did it together as an exercise, that's a really good way to support one another.
Totally. Yeah, I definitely noticed like a direct correlation between like my happiness and presence and like the screen time that I have on my phone.
Truly.
Yeah.
What would you say that your biggest takeaway from Hoffman was?
I am enough. Yeah. I mean,
you are.
I mean, truly, the phone thing is such a big one, but like definitely like understanding like my patterns and where they came from, and like feeling radical ownership over like, you know, why I do certain things. Like sometimes we're like, why do I always end up choosing or why does this always happen to me with these kind of guys? And it's like, okay, well, what part of me is choosing to stay in there? And how does me choosing to stay in these kind of relationships help reinforce an internal narrative that I am not enough? And so radical ownership over those patterns, understanding of how to break those patterns, and like the cycle of transformation around awareness of having a pattern, the importance of the somatic release of the expression of getting it out, being more forgiving to myself and others involved in the creation of the pattern, right? Knowing that I was doing the best I could with what I had, and then stepping into like a new behavior. How does new empowered Meredith want to show up? Like what in the moments that I'm triggered, what would the old Meredith do? And like, what am I choosing now? And of course, not only has that kind of like helped me reinforce my own beliefs, you know, of knowing I am enough and I am lovable, and that helping not only attract my husband, but like stick up to him in times where I would have in the past with guys I was dating, like let them walk over me. And that's made him respect me more and made him shift and made our relationship stronger. But it's also been foundational in like my coaching and the tools that I give my clients and how I explain things to my clients as well.
Yeah, I don't even think we've introduced you. Can you introduce yourself?
Oh my gosh. 38 minutes in. Better late than never.
I think this feels Meredith, like perfect timing.
I am Meredith. I am enough. So I am Meredith. I'm a leadership coach. I work with entrepreneurs on cultivating inner trust and relaxed confidence from the inside out. So people really connecting to their intuition and being guided from that place. And then also deeper connection to ourselves and deeper connection to others. So I have a weekly podcast called Powerful Stuff, which kind of takes the listeners through the transformational arc I take my clients through, like how to love your shadow, like communicating powerfully, the power of how yes and can change your life. And we always have like a little meditation and journaling around that. So those are the main things. And then, of course, I love playing guitar and singing and songwriting. My past life, I was a beverage founder and an international journalist with a master's in African studies, and really love, coaching and community building in Venice and beyond, because kind of like when I was a journalist, like I love helping people own and share their story.
Honestly, you're a badass. And you always have blown me away. I'm so impressed by you.
Thank you, Maddie. I received that. And likewise, it's been so fun to see your journey as well.
Thank you. You've been a big part of it. And I think it's so inspiring, all the work that you're doing. Do you think that Hoffman was a pivotal moment for you in your career?
Wow. And I would love to hear, I mean, I guess you just are 2 weeks out, so the rest is still unwritten, as Natasha Bedingfield would say. But yeah, I think it was, I did it while I was coaching, and I still had my beverage company at the same time. So I was coaching. That was how I was making money, but I still was holding on to my beverage company, still fundraising. And I think doing Hoffman really helped me realize, like, it's not my joy to be like, some people live and breathe their beverage companies, and that's amazing. But I realized I started my beverage company to create community around a beverage, like, because I had an alcoholic kombucha company, and I really wanted to use alcohol as a form of connection and community instead of escapism. And I spent 4 years building it, getting the investors, taking it to sampling at South by Southwest, all these things. And then I think going to Hoffman made me realize, like, my truth, like, I had built myself into an iron cage. And like, my truth was that I loved working with people directly, like coaching and community, and that I didn't actually need a physical product to create community. And so after Hoffman, I had the courage to, with the help and permission of like one of my advisors who I really respected and admired, wind my beverage company down, tell all my investors, that I was shutting it down, and go full time into coaching. And then definitely also instrumental in my relationship as well. And so, yeah, I definitely think like Hoffman shifted my career trajectory from beverage to going all in on coaching and all in on like my community building stuff. And then also with my husband, and then also with, I think, like knowing that I am enough or like being reminded of tools that I could have in social situations where sometimes in the past I might have like felt like I didn't belong.
Wow. That's beautiful. I can really resonate with that. The idea of coming out of Hoffman, you feel so much more validated and seen. And
Totally.
I feel really the same, similar to you, in the sense of I walked in there as like a coach, but maybe a little like not fully believing in myself to the capacity that I wanted to. And now coming out of it, I mean, yeah, 2 weeks out, being like, oh no, I am a coach and I am all in. Like, I'm 2 feet on the train, like the train is leaving, let's fucking go. We're all in, like shed everything else. And I think some really validating moments for me were, as you said, Matt, you don't say your career, you don't speak about what you do. And so 2 people guessed what I did. Actually, multiple people guessed what I did. And they literally used the words empowerment coach. And that was so validating of like, oh, yeah. Like people see me as this. Like it would be, what a shame to not like step into my power, given that like they were like, you uplift people. It's like, oh, okay.
You do uplift people. Yeah, they fully see you without even needing to like explain it or share it or.
Yeah, which is a beautiful thing. And I think that was also a reminder of like this fear around, okay, I've got to introduce myself as this and I've got to talk about what I do and blah, blah, blah. But as they say, do, have, be, instead
have.
be,
Do have.
do have.
Yeah. Yes.
So be,
yeah,
just
exactly.
be the person, be yourself, be authentic, be real. And like that will be, that's all you have to do.
And then do
to
from
show
that
up.
place, and then you end up having those things.
Yes.
But rather than doing to hope to be, or to hope to have, and then to hope to be after that, because it never works.
Sorry if that was really confusing, guys. Like we can draw a diagram and like post it in the show notes.
Put it in the show notes. You do have.
We did learn that in Hoffman. But the theme is you don't have to like, you just be yourself. You be first.
Right. And focus on like what makes me happy. What are my emotions experiencing? Like what are my emotions telling me? And how can I like be fully expressed? And when I can learn how to be fully expressed, then I do from that place, and that becomes magnetic, and that helps create the clarity. And then I end up having from that place of like joy and non-attachment to having. I end up having without needing to have.
There you go. I think it just releases so much pressure in this life. You know, people are like, I have to have the house, I have to have the car, I have to have the thing, I have to have the job, I have to have the partner. But it's just like, how would that person be? Like, would they be happy? Would they be free? Would they be just like full of gratitude? Like, just be that.
Right. Well, and if we like don't know how to cultivate that mindfulness or that stillness, when we have those things, it can be even more depressing because people think it's going to be the thing that makes them happy, and then they get it, and then it doesn't make them happy. And I know so many people who have had big accolades or, achieved like wild success or multimillionaires, and they're working on the being now after they've had all those things.
Yes.
And yeah, which is funny. And like that, the grass always seems greener, but it's like the sooner we can get into that state of awareness and appreciation, like the sooner we can actually tap into things from the inside out. And that was a funny thing too. Like when I was coaching and decided to kind of go all in on it, I was like, what will my Harvard friends think? Because I went to Harvard undergrad. What will my Harvard friends think who are like Forbes 30 under 30 and have achieved all this great success? And because I'm a failed startup founder. So what will they think? They'll think, who is Meredith to be a coach? And that's kind of what my internal story was telling me, but it was part of my journey of like overcoming that and still trusting in the gifts that I had to offer, because we are our own client zero. And so in order to coach others, we have to, walk the fire ourselves. So I was like, no, I trust in what I'm giving people. I put it out there anyway, started sharing my stories. I was like, even if like what, if they judge me, and then what, and then what, and then what, and kind of like took myself through my deepest fears. And of course, the biggest irony is, some of the first clients that I had were Harvard acquaintances who I really admired, who were like, I've always admired how you were such a free spirit, and you taught yoga and played guitar in Europe after getting your master's, and I feel like I've always been on this hamster wheel and I want to learn how to get off and actually enjoy the life I've created. And so it was such a funny reminder to me of like trusting in what we intrinsically have in our intrinsic gifts, and the external validation or accolades are just like quick hits of dopamine, and to trust in the joy that we have regardless of how much we've like achieved. But like, how do you make people feel when you walk into a room, and vice versa? And like, that's like what we end up remembering.
That's exactly it. That's the truest gift. To just really be able to be so authentic, to just be yourself, be so happy in your own skin, to have self-love, and to see others and be present with others.
Yes. to see others, be present with them, make them feel seen. I love that Maya Angelou quote that's like, people forget what you did, people will forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And that's what I just always think about. And it's such a moment too of like full acceptance and surrender of like, how can we make ourselves feel firstly? And then secondly, when we're at an event, like, do you find yourself looking over your shoulder, like hoping to talk to that person and not being present with the person you're with? And it's like, how can we continue to like return to that feeling of presence in each moment, or in the moment where we're getting our coffee in the morning and the barista's making us the drink, and like having that deep state of being in presence in these moments that don't, maybe are quick moments in time for us, or don't feel, maybe we don't weight them the same as when we're like on a podcast or, doing XYZ, but it's like they're equally valuable in getting to that state of equanimity.
No, you're spot on. You're spot on. In every moment, if you can see it as just like such an important part of the journey, you're right. Just like standing there waiting for your morning coffee, like instead of being in that frantic mindset of being like, oh my God, can they just hurry up and fucking make my coffee? And like being on your phone and being like, I need to get to this, I need to get to that. Like, what would it be like to actually like engage with your barista and like have a little laugh, have a bit of fun, and just be so present in the moment? Those little moments of beauty of connection is like, that's it. That's just life. It's right there. And it can change it the way your demeanor, and it can change their day, your day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why, yeah. What were you going to say?
Well, I think that's a lot of like coming back to your childlike self of like play.
Yeah.
That's been a real reminder. It's like kids are just in it. They're exactly there. They're not trying to get anywhere. They're just like in the moment having fun. And so I think this idea of like, yeah, finding your childlike self and just be here right now is the best reminder.
Be here now. Yes. It's so it's so true. As you heard it here first, guys. No, I'm joking. Just do it. But yeah. So I completely agree, and that's why I like to say one of my tenets is, play is power, and the playful state is the powerful state, because when we are in play, we are in presence, we are in joy, we are in curiosity. We're allowing ourselves to, have fun and like throw things against the wall and see what sticks, and not take things too seriously, or like not need things to look a certain way or have a certain outcome, because it's just play. And that's why I have my clients go on inner child dates, where it's like, what would delight your inner child? Maybe your inner child date is like dressing up and dancing to Britney Spears in your room, or last year I did improv class, and where you're fully present and just like listening to the other person, and like, how can you continue to build on them, that scene? Because the more we can like extend and create those moments for ourselves, the more it ripples and elevates every other part of our life.
Oh, improv is such a great exercise to do. That's so true. Like, you have to be listening to everything they say.
I mean, feel like you'd be so good at improv.
Whoa, what a gift. Do you know that, a couple of people guessed at Hoffman that I was an actor. I was like, stop it.
I could see that, Maddie. I could see it.
Someone said a comedian as well. I was like, keep them coming, guys.
Shut up. I love you. I could totally see it, Maddie. Maddie came to my improv performance 2 years ago with my
Meredith,
husband.
what is hilarious. Hilarious. Honestly, that was very inspirational for me. I was like, damn, Mare, you are good.
Thank you. And I think that you would be great, and I would love to come see your improv as well.
Thank you so much. Good to know I have one supporter in the crowd for that. That might have to be another bucket list item I'm ticking off while I'm here.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, watch this space, everyone. I mean, we're improvising right now.
Honestly, we are, and it's wild how quickly 50 minutes has gone.
Wow.
Time
flies. I know.
Fun.
We keep unearthing little Maddie and Mare nuggets.
There's so many nuggets. There's so many places that we could go. Right. This is a question I want to ask. How do you think people know when they love themselves? Like, have self-love?
What a great question. I was going to ask you one too, so I'll circle back.
Okay, you can ask me the question after. Yeah, great. I'm here.
But how do people know when they have self-love? I think it's like when we listen to how we talk to ourselves and how often we are, doing things that our intuition is asking us to do, carving out time for ourselves. For instance, when you're like, oh, I know I want to do a morning routine, or I want to do movement or whatever, but I'm not doing it. Or like, I keep putting myself in these situations where people take, and I don't stick up for myself. And so it's like we've damaged or lost our self-trust because it's like our intuition speaks and we do the opposite, or we don't make time for it. And so I think it becomes apparent when we have self-love, when we start having the attitude of my intuition speaks, I listen. My intuition speaks, I listen. So it's like starting to do the things that we know are going to make us happy versus, oh, I've always wanted to do that, but I haven't carved out time. Or like we're so disconnected from our own needs because we're too busy trying to like please other people. It's kind of sending the subconscious message or the message to our inner child that like, oh, I am prioritizing this person's needs above my own. So I think those are signs. And of course, listening to how we talk to ourselves. Again, it's okay if the negative talk comes up, but then what do you say in response? So it's not the fact that you've had the negative self-talk, but then are you able to be like, okay, I know that's just a part of me. I know you might be scared. Like, why is that coming up? I'm still here. So kind of like how we respond as well. So I think like listening to your intuition, showing up for yourself, having self-compassion, these are all signs of self-love.
Oh, that's such a beautiful explanation. Yeah, and it feels like self-trust goes hand in hand with that, like you're saying. Like when you trust your intuition, when you trust like that you know what's best for you, like actually listening to that.
Exactly. Like, and that's self-trust, self-love, and intuition all go hand in hand for sure. Because as we act on what we say we're going to do or what our intuition tells us, we build the self-trust, which then builds the self-love. And there was something else that I was going to say there, which is also the allowance and listening to our emotions. Also allowing ourselves to feel grief, crying if we need to cry. Like if we're feeling anger, like asking our emotions, what are they coming up to tell us? Like, what do they need to be fully expressed? Usually resentment means that we've had a boundary that's been crossed that we haven't addressed. Or, usually like grief or sadness, means like our inner child or, has been like let down in a certain way. We need to like give that voice. And so, and just also like as much as we allow ourselves to feel joy too, like without being like, but when is the other shoe going to drop? So allowance of emotions as well, I would say.
I think that one's really important. And actually, I do think that that's a big takeaway from Hoffman and for me as well, was like giving myself permission to feel the full range of emotions.
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, maybe the goal is to be happy, right? And you're like, oh, like I will always want to be happy. But it's like, no, it's like today I'm sad. Today I'm angry. Today I'm frustrated. Like, what is that? Like, listen to that. Be aware of those feelings and like allow yourself to express them and let them tell you what they're trying to tell you. Like those emotions tell a story and like it's within you. You need to listen to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I was going to ask you before that of how do you tap into your play in your playful state? Madeline, Lucy.
Thank you. Wow, it's just rolling off the tongue. I am allowing play to come back into my life in a few different ways. On my recent road trip, I had a decent drive on me back from Northern California. I would ask myself, I was like, what does Maddie need? What does my little child need to do today? And I was like, do you know what? I need to like play 90s music, like boy bands and girl bands, and just like sing at the top of my lungs and just like, even though I think that I should be listening to this podcast or I should be like, I'm like studying Kabbalah or I should be, listening to this audiobook. I was like, no, I'm going to let this girl sing and just like go back to her childlike self and scream at the top of her lungs.
You did it.
And, or if I'm like going on a walk or going on a hike, I'm just like, what would my playful self do? And I almost like have a conversation with her, like, what does she want to do? And like lean into her, like whatever she wants to do. Like, oh, you want to go for a little dip in the ocean right now? Go and dip in the ocean right now. You want to go have a cheeky dip. You want to go for a bike ride right now? That sounds great. You want to make a chocolate cake and eat it? Like, let's do it. Kind of just like what would really nurture me and what would be like feel really good.
I love that.
And also bring more levity to situations. I think just like we don't have to take life so seriously. I think just making fun of more situations and just like laughing, joking, like this is what we're here for. Just have fun.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is there's not a shred of evidence that life is serious. And then another one on top of that is it's our responsibilities, not ourselves, that we should take so seriously. And I completely agree. It's like, yeah, it's not so serious. Like all the things that are in our head, it's like Mel Robbins says the quote, it's not that deep. Like it feels super deep in our head, and even like a decision about XYZ, about our career, it's like, it's not that deep. Like we'll figure it out, you know? And if chances are most situations hopefully will be things we could look back and laugh at or be like, oh my gosh, you know?
So true. My friend Cassidy says the same thing. It ain't that deep. It's so, I had her on the podcast as well. And as soon as you can think that, you're like, oh God, such a reminder. Like stop overthinking.
Such a relief too. It like removes all the pressure and like heaviness.
Yeah. Taking life a little less seriously, taking ourselves a little less seriously.
Yeah. I love that.
How do you bring more play into your life?
Wow. I mean, a variety of things similar to you, like listening to those little pings and following them. This week I planned a date night for my husband and I took us to a rage room where you have 30 minutes to break things. And I was playing like high school band, similarly, like, Pieces by Sum 41 and
Sum 41. Yes.
Jack's Mannequin, Dashboard Confessional, The Usual Suspects, and doing stuff like that, going rollerblading. We have a cuddle den in our upstairs and like have an inner child shrine, and like we'll go into our cuddle den and like have fun little like meditative nights. I think like doing like things with friends like show and tells, or creating like fun surprise and delight things, not just for like the community events that I host where I will like do a workshop around the full moon, but also kind of have a playful comedic twist to it. But also like events that we do for our friends where we love to surprise and delight our friends, like that one that you were a part of, like Pitch Please, where we had AI generate pitch decks for fun made up companies. And then we put friends in teams and had them pitch them, which was just, and everyone had to dress up like venture capitalists. So like doing fun things like that, or like show and tell at like camping,
and dressing up in onesies.
And dressing up in onesies and having themed nights. Yeah, like even at my wedding, it was like, I don't want it to be so serious. Like I want it to be a reflection of Spencer's and my personality. So like the opening night, like Friday night, which would usually be welcome drinks, we had it like Space Cowboy theme, and everyone dressed up like Space Cowboy. And we put people in teams based on like matching crystals that they got. And they had 10 minutes to create a drawing of our wedding hashtag Mermaid Spenergy and then present it to the crowd.
That was
so stuff
fun.
like that.
You are so good at creating really fun experiences.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Well, you are so great at being a fuck yes attendee, and adding so much hype to it. So I would say like a lot of stuff like that, and then of course like doing stand up or like playing guitar, and who knows, I might rollerblade later tonight. Anything's possible.
That feels right. I might ocean dip. That feels perfect. Under the moon.
Oh my God. You're going to ocean dip tonight?
I think that feels like the right thing to do. A little sunset one.
Oh,
that one's fun.
I love that.
Well, there's no shortage of play in our lives, Mad. That is for sure.
That's for sure. I think rest assured.
Rest assured. Watch this space. Okay. I mean, I feel like we've done it. Like we could keep going for so long, but keep them wanting.
Keep them wanting more. This won't be the end, guys, and it's certainly just the beginning.
It's certainly just the beginning.
We'll see you. We'll do a part 2 when I'm in Australia and we're running our marathon together.
Let's hold each other to that. I think that needs to happen.
Okay. Holding each other to it. Well, this was expansive.
This was expansive. I feel like we should finish it with one final thing.
Okay.
Let's leave someone with some final words of what you would say, some words of wisdom that Mare has learned in this life along the way.
I will say, I'll share a snippet from a poem I wrote.
Oh, I would love that. The people would
Don't-
love that.
Yeah. Okay. Don't need reason. Don't need rhyme. Good things never wait in line. It will never be the perfect time. Good things never wait in line.
Mic drop. That was
Wow.
powerful.
Thank
Some
you,
might say
Maddie.
powerful stuff.
Some might say that. Wow.
That was it. That was the way to end. Well done.
Okay. Well, proud of us. Love you. Thanks, everyone listening, for coming along the ride.
Thank you, everyone, for coming along for this ride with Mare and I, M&M, if you will. It's been a pleasure, Meredith. Thank you
Pleasure's
so
all mine.
much. Oh, such a gift. Get ready for part 2. But for now, we'll see you later.
We'll see you later. Signing off.
Signing off.